Welcome back to RGR Football. I'm Ryan, and this is me going rogue on the Kansas City Chiefs and the NFL. And today, something a little bit new. We're going to talk about a few players and the rumors that are swirling around them. I've gotten a lot of questions lately, and for those of you who have not been on the Monday night live Q&A session that I do every week that is specific to the Chiefs, make sure you check that out. Hit that sub button now, like and subscribe. That's always the best way to go about it. But a lot of questions have been coming up lately about a few players and their futures in particular. And so I want to make sure that I address those today and get those questions out of the way. And it may be something that I have to do going forward until at least the season gets going, because rumors are rampant right now. So this rumor report is going to start on what I think should be at this point very evident and very much a moot point. And it's about Chris Jones. Chris Jones is going to be a Kansas City Chief for 2020 and for likely 2021 as well. There is not enough interest right now to create a trade. The Chiefs were working on it pre-draft, and he is a guy that came up with some big plays, had a consecutive sack streak, sack per game anyway, in 2018 it was great. 2019 had some big plays, not only during the season, but down the stretch. And definitely they noticed his absence when he was out against a couple of teams later in the season. The fact is that Chris Jones expects to be, wants to be, is demanding to be paid as one of the top players at his position in the league. He wants nearly close to Aaron Donald money is the current thought, and that's just not in the cards from the Kansas City Chiefs. It may be from somewhere else in the league, but from the Chiefs right now, I just don't see that can happen. The Chiefs do want him back. They want to have him in the fold. They like his energy. They like his talent. I think, honestly, he's a pretty good locker room fit, too. I think they like that kind of lighter, jovial kind of attitude. But the fact is, they not only do they not want to pay $20, $22, $23 million per season for a defensive tackle, they can't afford to. And that's simply the fact at this point. Maybe next season, if they can move some other contracts around, we're going to have to see what happens with some of the one-year contracts as well. Maybe that could become an option. But as it stands right now, if they really wanted to go out of their way, they could make some moves that could get the job done. But at this point, I don't think that they're sold. So they're stuck at this position. The franchise tag seems to be what's going to happen. Now, it hasn't been signed yet. Chris Jones has not signed his tag. He is still at an impasse. In fact, we've heard recently that there is no conversation going on between the two sides. That is an indication that this is going to be a rather drawn out kind of process. So can you get past that? Can you get through this season? I have no fear that Chris Jones will report in shape for training camp whenever that begins on this abbreviated strange season. That's not an issue to me. We saw what he did when he held out last year, came into camp, he was ready to go. You could maybe say that he wasn't quite in the shape because of missing OTAs and everything, but that's the case with everyone this particular offseason. So I don't think it puts him at a disadvantage. And the way that he plays, I think more than makes up for that. So unless that he can change his stance and come off of the dollar demands, I just don't see that they can justify it going forward right now. What that leads to is next year, can they get to that point in next offseason? Do they do the franchise tag again? That could definitely be. Or at that point, a trade could come around. Because right now, I don't think anybody wants to take any chances about putting a contract on a guy that is going to be that long-term and for that much money when you don't know what your revenue is going to be this particular year because of COVID. So that limits the possibilities. It doesn't limit the future possibilities in terms of a trade. But for 2020, expect Chris Jones to be in the fold without question. And that brings me to one possible trade that has been brought up quite a bit, and that is for a DB and Malik Hooker. We'll talk a little bit more about him, but that instance is always surrounded with the quotation, the concept of moving Juan Thornhill to cornerback. And while, yes, there is some historical precedence for that, playing some corner in college, it was certainly part of the evaluation of Juan Thornhill. Since he's come into the league, he has been very proficient. He was my top on my board at the free safety position in his draft class, and that's exactly what he's done in the league. the Chiefs don't have another true free safety. And so, yes, while you can look at his skill set, he could come down and play some man, could come down and play a corner position. It leaves you with a deficit at safety. Tyrann Mathieu could go back there, but it's not his specialty. I think he's still best at that robber position. You don't want Dan Sorensen back there that's out of position for Dan. Dan needs to be up in the box. It's his best play. It's his most heady play. That special teams play even against the Texans was super heads up, but because he was in there in the thick of it near the line of scrimmage. That's not something that the move would generate more deficiencies than it would give you a plus at the corner spot. So in the end, what you have to have is someone else try to do that. Now, there are some other options, of course. Most likely is we'll see what we saw at the end of last season, where Tyrann Mathieu is the player that actually comes up and plays some cornerback, specifically at the nickel spot. You're going to go with what you go with on the outside. You'll have Bashaud Breeland some. Not sure what that suspension or suspensions is going to look like, but the team is definitely comfortable with Ward. They have Fenton in the groove, which we're going to look at him here soon on the channel. And they also have the rookie in Snead. I think Bo Keys has a chance to make this roster. I'm not sure if he can contribute right away. We're going to have to see what he comes in at in camp. But what the corner position does give you is the ability to drop Mathieu down into it out of that robber spot, which would force a little bit of a change at the back. I think Armani Watts can be a second safety for you deep. I don't think that he's got corner potential, but he can certainly do that. I think Snead is a guy they drafted because of his versatility. He can play outside corner, he can play nickel, and he can definitely play safety. So I think he's a rookie to watch in that scenario. But it all comes down to moving Juan Thornhill doesn't give you an advantage overall as a defense. He's very good at playing the free safety, and quite frankly, he needs to stay there to maintain his progression to continue to get better. And this is just not something you want to interrupt. This is a very key time for a second-year player to be making his moves to get ready to become an elite player, which I do believe he has the potential to become. You want to leave him at his free safety spot. You want to let him be what he's going to be. Yes, there'll always be times when he comes down and plays because of a blitz package or whatever the particular assignment is, but you don't want to make that a change in what his core responsibilities are in order to let him progress to the point where he can, I truly believe, become all-pro. Now, the safety spot is another one that I get a lot of questions about, and they've been coming up a lot lately again. Eric Berry is a guy the Chiefs fans love, and I don't blame you. I think it's unfortunate the way that the end of his time in Kansas City came about. But I will say this. Eric Berry's injuries have been significant. His cancer history has been significant. I can't necessarily blame him for not feeling like he wanted to test that when he was in Kansas City. I don't think that makes him a quitter. I think that makes him a cautious guy concerned about his health and his longevity to try and play this sport. But the bottom line for the organization was he wouldn't play for them. He couldn't play up to par. They parted ways. In the end, what that means is that it's not going to be a situation where they're going to be looking to bring him back. It would be a really nice story, but I don't think for the field that actually fits. I think Eric Berry's tenure as a Chief has come and gone, and I think that's the way that it's going to stay. Rumors of them getting back in touch are unsubstantiated as far as I've found. In fact, the couple of workouts he's had for other teams, from what I have heard, has not gone particularly well. Obviously, he hasn't been signed. And whether he wants to play or not is one question. Whether he's possibly capable physically of playing is a completely different question. I think that's likely the limiting factor here and something that is going to keep Eric Berry not only off of the Chiefs roster, but off of rosters in general. Let's hope that maybe he can get back with another team, but the rumor of him coming back to Kansas City is definitely overblown. Those are the top 3 questions about rumors that I'm getting this week. Let me know if you guys have more. Make sure you hit the sub, hit the comments. A thumbs up definitely helps. So thank you all for checking this out. If you like this, let me know down in the comments, and I'll start doing this a little more regularly. If not, make sure you hit Monday night and watch for the film reviews later this week. Hope you guys have a good one, and we'll talk to you next time.